Welcome to a Trekzone conversation. Sam Cockings is beaming in with some exclusive details of his new fan film. Sam, thanks for your time.
Well, you're welcome. It's good to always be back. And I've been busy, so it's good to finally get to talk about something because it's been just go, 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 but in the download.
This is a Trekzone conversation. And you can get exclusive behind-the-scenes info and first play access to all Trekzone podcasts by becoming a member today. Click join on every Trekzone video on YouTube. Go to the trek.zone/support or scan the QR code on screen throughout the show. Now, it's back to you, Matt.
Well, thank you very much, Ross. And a quick mention of our socials, Trekzone's on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and your favourite podcast feed. Find us, like, follow, and subscribe. Leave comments and ratings. It'll help us convince the algorithm we're worth it, just like Trekyards. And Trekyards Sam is beaming in. My friend, give us a quick recap of your short film and where you're at with it.
Well, I mean, which one? That's the question. The Trek Shorts
All
project,
of them.
The Trek Shorts project was what, 5 I pitched? And they're all doing reasonably well, but Corona has struck them all in different ways. and I've been doing some more. So I guess you've got to be specific. But there may be one that we can really talk about today that I've not talked about ever yet.
Yes, do that one. Do that one first.
Oh. God, what's it called? I invented the name recently. One Small Step. There we go. That's the...
That's right.
That's got a good name, I think. This is the... it's the second new idea I had. I won't give you the other way. I always did, but I mean, 2 exclusives. That's not fair. This is the first chronological appearance of the Keeley character, who appeared in, or was going to appear in Convergence, and is sort of the primary point of view character in the Trek Shorts project. She's not every lead actress, but we sort of see her throughout her life. And this is her about sort of 21, just after the academy, just after first assignment, and we see the very start of the journey, which is fantastic from a filmmaking point of view, because we filmed another film with her 30 years later the next day, and she looks so different. We did a good job on that, so that's pretty fun.
Well, very excitingly, you have exclusive details for us. We have a couple of still frames that you've sent through up on the screen now. Tell us about these. We have some Jem'Hadar fighters attacking the Defiant. What is happening?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Defiant as being included in one of the shorts, but this one is very much about that first step, that one small step onto the Defiant for this character. She's the night shift helms operator on the Defiant. That's her official job, and we get some of that dialogue in the episode. And yes, I've never done a Dominion fight ever in my fan film history, because no one's ever asked. And so this story came about, and I was able to actually do a full firefight with the Jem'Hadar, which, as a DS9 fan and as a fan of that sort of CGI, was really fun. And no fan films really done it to the extent I'm doing it. I mean, Squadron got close, and all credit to them, but the Norways don't move as fast as the Defiant does. And I kind of pushed a few technological tricks that I've never done before as well. So I'm hoping that's a this year release, because I really want people to see it. And so if you love DS9, I mean, you cannot get more DS9 than this. And the end you're going to enjoy as well. I'll say that.
And they really did push the boundaries with DS9, didn't they? The style of that CGI, the way that we sort of bolted onto the ships and moved with the ships through the three-dimensional space, certainly very different to what we saw in TNG, and probably to a certain degree Voyager as well. It's the way CGI's sort of gone now, having a camera out there rather than a person, I guess, as it were, with the way that those moves happen. So you channeled all of that and got that into this fan film?
Yeah, it was definitely it's a small firefight. It isn't this big grand armada fight which generates certain levels of shots, but it's pretty intimate. It's pretty actiony. When we see Keeley in A Long Way From Home, which is the first film that's been released with her in, she's much older and more mature. So pushing it all the way back to 21, I had to make her less likable, because that's the journey, and so that was really rewarding. And even Nim said to me, I don't necessarily like this version of her as much. So that was really, really fun. And you want to give them something else to act, because at the end of the day, they're actors, and you want to give a good performance. And that's really fun. It's nice to see the journey. It's all about the journey, and to see where was day one. And we've done some other stuff which sort of covers a little bit later, and we see the Defiant short in Indiegogo that covers sort of the darkness of having worked on the Defiant for a couple of years, having done as much fighting as you would have done, it's not good for anybody. And so what's she like before any of that starts? That contrast of character should be interesting.
And it's a really interesting character exploration as well, something that we sort of haven't really seen in Star Trek because of where Kurtzman and New Trek, as it were, have taken the franchise. We haven't quite had this exploration of post-Dominion War Starfleet. I guess we sort of see it a little bit in how the organization went in Picard, a little bit in the future. But certainly an interesting case study, one that I sort of looked at on Eternal Night. You know, you look at this background, this undercurrent in Star Trek of conflict after conflict. The Zinti, the Cardassian War that you had that season 4 episode of in TNG. You know, you're moving into the Borg, that constant fear of the Borg. From someone living in the 24th century, man, it was not a good time to be alive.
I mean, for a lot of the people, it was fine. Only when the wars get as big as the Dominion War, then it becomes this widespread thing. You can be forgiven for, you know, the Borg attack being, it was a one event with the Enterprise D, and then it was the fleet, but they were out of Earth. But yeah, escalates certainly, and you know, yes, Kurtzman's moved obviously in the future, and then I guess super past with Discovery, but by pitching the Keeley storyline from season 3 of DS9 into sort of question mark, that's a really rich level of time. And I remember the day I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to move this back 2 years, because then we can be in Voyager uniforms, which, you know, as someone who likes her in her normal First Contact uniform, for the fans, seeing that difference, there's not that many Voyager era fan films, and obviously the Aaron Vanderclays are pretty much the only example of like properly done Voyager, and that's obviously brand new. And so getting to do some more of that is quite special in the fan film community. And it's, you can still do it in DS9. They had both uniforms and set that transition point. Yeah, I get to do a few cool things in this. Few cool things.
And it also gives you that instant recognition that this is a prequel to the past fan film without actually having to specifically constantly mention that as well.
Well, that's the pips on her shirt. Real helpful indicator of how old she is. You don't realise how much. And in fact, we've carefully designed the different hairstyles. You know, my male actors, you know, Nick and myself and Marcus, we have very limited options on how we can look age-wise. In the film I've done, I have the Defiant one, the big one. I did cut my hair really short, so I look just distinctly different. Take it or leave it, but at least I look different enough to be 10 years younger. But Nim, she's very malleable in how she can look, and each era we've kind of worked out her makeup, her eye look, her haircut. It's quite elaborate actually, and it takes about 50 minutes per change. So when you do a filming day or weekend, you have 2 eras, if you're lucky. Because it is kind of frustrating a little bit to be in the office and Nim spending 50 minutes and I'm ready to shoot. But the effect is so good, especially when you do them side by side and you show the other people on set and it's like, oh damn, how do you look so much younger? I saw you 2 hours ago. It is effective.
Now, what's it like to have so many fan films on the go, mate? You know, you've got One Small Step, you've got a few others, you've got the Trek shorts happening. How are you keeping track of it? Plus, you've also got work for other people in visual effects that you're doing as well, and you've got Trek Yards as well. You are Star Trek mad, my friend.
Oh, that is yeah. No, it is shocking, and I'll be honest, the 5 I originally pitched the audience. Phenomenal stories. I'm loving making them, and we've got a lot of that filmed. Most of the UK stuff, because the American and Czech people have had other problems. Things happen, right? But you kind of found that once you turn that tap, and the water starts coming down on creativity, it's really hard, because part of the Indiegogo was getting the extra kit, getting extra uniforms, but now everything's in the studio space. It's right there. The budget is much lower to make a new episode than it was to do the... You know, it's like once you've done the startup, it's there ready to go. And the actors are interested in telling this... whatever stories I give them, really. But these little character pieces... Because each film's got to be different. So they've got to be characterful. They've got to be something else to work with. But it's... Oh, God, I'm doing so many. And it's tricky. But I'm trying to be very clever. Because in reality, the backdrop of the universe is just that. It's a backdrop. You know, if I set 3 on the Defiant, maybe one, it's a highlighting, oh, look, we're on the Defiant. But at a certain point, that's just a workspace. So what little story can you tell inside that's important? Well, now you've got all the digital sets. You've got the costumes. The effort to budget to time is a lot less. Still takes time, but it's hard to resist doing more. And I've definitely not revealed how many I'm doing, and you'd be shocked. Trying to do.
Well, one thing that I want to mention without mentioning it and without going into it, it is a case in point. I think you know where I'm taking this. It is a case in point that you can get in and make fan films and have plenty on the go without a lot of funding. But you do have some backers on crowdfunding campaigns. People do come along and donate money, signing up because they believe that you can get the job done, proving that you can get the job done. You're one of the people that are doing Star Trek fan films right. Like Aaron Vanderclay, Gary Davies, Gary O'Brien, you know, you're in that league now. Instead of just being a VFX creator, you are making these fan films. What's that like to have those people coming back for crowdfunding campaigns and having the money there to make them?
I mean, I self-invested a large, I won't admit how much of my hopeful Indiegogo budget just to film a bit of Long Way From Home and you know, because I was like, no, this is going to go well. I've got all the pieces here. The fans will be out there. Because at the end of the day, the quality of the project should be paramount. So if I needed a better camera, if I needed a lighting, you should, you know. But it's super rewarding because you know, you don't have $10,000 personal funds just to spend, but it needs to be spent on something. And so once that came in, I mean, the fees were kind of more than I thought. I guess they changed recently. I was like, oh wow, is that it? Okay. But the extra we got made up for that. I mean, it was spent very quickly, but boy, like once everything's in, like I say, in the studio, you're ready to go. Like we've expanded, and it is super rewarding. Not having to worry. And let's be honest, Matt. $10,000 for 5 films alone is a pretty good bar of what you're getting. And you've seen my quality of things, and more. I think I'm doing a thing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really seems to be that Greenscreen is the way to go. Aaron manages to achieve it in his parents' garage with some sets. Yeah. But it is an interesting one because you've got the construction, you've got... for me, it's always been a little bit of... and I'm no greenie, but the recycling of the set at the end of the day, that would sort of crush my soul a little bit, having to destroy that because there's no way to store it and no real need for it. With CG, it's just a computer file, and you can come back to it years later and tell another story if you wanted to.
Which I actually am doing. I had a set built for Temporal Anomaly, an Enterprise E corridor. I lit it in my old software. I'm going to convert it and use it in a new thing. The set's beautiful. It just doesn't hold up now lighting-wise. 7 years later, 6 years later, now it's looking fresh. And that might even be part of a new story, like the Enterprise E and something on it, which is... I might have already filmed that. Who knows? No, for sure. I mean, but, you know, these CG things, I mean, the more I keep adding ambition, I mean, I'm like... Where are we at? 14 months into having sets built for different projects. And I've only released one and we had everything done beforehand. So we're still having to create stuff. Because these people, you know, it can take 6 weeks to build one set because, well, fan time, you can't be too stressful. Sometimes you can tell them, you know, I really do need it in 2 weeks. And they'll make the attempt because you have to, you know, pick the time you're quite, like, actually professional, I need this. But you give them 8 months and they can do things slowly and everything's good. And that's kind of why I'm focusing on filming the projects now rather than even trying to edit any. Because if I have one set still to go, or one actor in the Czech Republic or one actor in America hasn't filmed, I can't even almost finish it, you know? Part of the pacing of a film is having all the pieces, and I don't like doing it without all the pieces. But if I can keep filming, then I'll be sitting here with potentially 3 or 4 terabytes of footage. I'm like, right, all the sets are ready, all the footage is in, let's just go. And then imagine having like a every 3 months short release. How cool would that be?
It was the intention for Trekzone's next fan film. It sort of hit the back burner as life changed a little bit for me, but it is still there, the way that's going to come forward. But I think that's one way to stay in the public's mind, is to have constant releasing rather than one a year, as it were. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and that's different ways of filleting a fish, if you were. in terms of ways that things are done. I know Gary Davis is one a year. Nick Cook as well. I forgot to mention him before in fan films
Love
done
Nick.
right. And I want to chat about you being on set for Nick as well. And I believe also too, there's going to be an Aussie flavour in a fan film of yours coming up as well. So much to talk about, Sam. Stop being so busy.
That's the problem. We're doing lots of cool things. I will say, and I love what you commented there about. Obviously, when Temper Only was made, it was a 50-minute film. It was going to be an episode length, right? And Convergence is like pushing those guidelines to the max. It's a big story. But once you, like I said, turn that tap and you can think in sort of 9 to 15 minutes and make it meaningful. Because A Long Way From Home is pretty good for 16 minutes, you know. Oh, wow. You can tell these stories a lot quicker with a lot more like little ideas. And you can churn them out quicker. If you're trying to do a 40-minute, 30-minute Dominion episode, whatever, that takes a lot more time, obviously. Now, the Avalon universe, they can just physically go and film, and they've filmed all their footage. It's abstractly easier. They don't take 8 months of prep to film, you know, there's no green screen. But they also want to do lots of small things. But I'm kind of really enjoying smaller form. I'm really enjoying being able to swap between eras, swap between characters in the timeline. It's really rewarding, actually. You don't need to tell the 1 year of a character's life. You can tell 40. It just sounds so silly when you say it. But yeah, I'm telling a decent story here.
It is incredible. Well, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Nick? I saw some photos, some behind-the-scenes photos. You were on set up in Scotland. There, I believe, is where he is. What was going on up there?
So I got in contact with Nick originally a couple of years ago because he asked for visual effects help, and I jumped at that. And I think my enthusiasm to help him, and he's actually said this to me, kind of re-sparked his interest, because you do need people who are let's keep going. And he is that for his production. I'm that for several people's production, but having energy is really important. And so he kind of turned up the heat, started doing more things. And I said to him very early on, you know, if you want me to come direct, I'd love to do that. And I may not have good cameras, and you know, I've got better cameras than he's ever had on his sets. And that alone can make the difference between a fan film to a really cool looking fan produced Star Trek film. That distinction. And he was going to come down to a thing here, which went really well. And I said, we need to go up there and do something this summer. The restrictions are okay. Fly masks, not a big deal. You've got holiday coming up, brilliant. Lower Decks is about to start. And so we had like 2-day window, and we used the 2-day, and it was a really fun experience to guest direct a Intrepid episode. And it's there's something you've never seen in a fan film ever, and it wouldn't be possible until this year. And Continues sort of did it. I know the guy did it, and kudos for him. But this is something really, really, really surreal and cool that he wrote in without realizing if we could do it, and I kind of pushed the boundaries on it. And so Nick is that'll be a fun, keep track on that one, Nick's next film, because it's going to be really cool.
That is very exciting. Now, what's it like for you to get out into a real world environment, as it were, away from green screens a little bit, but you have that VFX mindset? Was that sort of in play as you were guest directing?
It was real nice. I really liked actually filming. Something you can't do as much in CG is have those spontaneous angles. You can have happy accents occasionally, but real bokeh, real depth. You know, no secondary to that. And so it was really refreshing. But then you have children in the background making noise. You have dogs walking through the shot. You have the wind. All the other problems come in. You have, batteries are running down. So as soon as you finish filming studio, you want a real live action. And then as soon as you finish with that, you're like, oh, God damn, give me the studio construction. So it was one of those situations. But some of the clips, really cool. And Nick's bag of props and goodies that he brought was really big and really heavy, and we got some fun stuff. But no, I'm easily happy to say we got the best Intrepid footage ever, and I'm happy to have given that to him as this gift. All he's done for the fan film community, because he's the longest running at this point. Other people have sort of come and gone. He is still going, and I wanted to give him something back and something to be really proud of, and it's and some fun cameos in that as well, courtesy of Trek Shorts, which is going to be quite cool.
And what's that what's it like to be there and have that passion? As you say, they're the longest running Star Trek fan film company, theatre company, as it were.
Yeah.
And they're still continuing. They still have the passion, obviously, to keep making these things. To come along and direct them through an episode. Did you take anything away from that? Did you sort of get that warm and fuzzy feeling, as it were?
Yeah, I think that's a good summation. No, it was good to see Nick on his home turf, to really get to physically see the famous Scottish landmarks. And part of the story was kind of alternate locations, and so in a very small amount of space, there was like, oh my god, there's a this and that. Nick, how is this thing so varied? Which was, and the audience doesn't know this is 15 meters that way. That was really nice, and to every actor is better with a good director, and I'm not saying their directors are bad, but I think we got some good stuff out of Nick, and it was very much we were in a real good click. We're in unison with that. We kind of co-authored the story. I had the simplest let's try something with this sort of vibe. He came back with a proper story, and then he wrote it and I directed it. So it was a very good partnership on it. And he's also editing it, because I want it to be an Intrepid film. I gave my vibe, and he kind of interprets that as something else. No, it's really special, and I really hope people will like it. And obviously, that's a bonus one that he did a crowdfunder of a film that he's partially filmed, and then Corona. This is a bonus film. No Indiegogo. We both paid our own travel. And that was kind of nice because he planed and then hoteled for Trek Shorts, and I planed and hoteled for Intrepid, and so we just paid our own way and called it equal, which I think was quite apt, quite fair. Although he did take me out for a nice Indian all-you-can-eat, which was. And I actually gave him an Indian while he was here. So it was a very equitable half. But it was exactly what a fan film should be, in a sort of a low-key F, where you're not trying to do something huge, just sort of for the love. And it'll be free for everybody, no budget raised, but quality got. No, it's nice.
Incredible stuff, and it is incredible to watch Nick's journey from the humble beginnings. As he has said on Trekzone, that they are not professional filmmakers. They're getting in and having a bit of fun because they want to. So incredible to see that, and incredible to. I cannot wait to see your flavour in Intrepid. I cannot wait to see One Small Step, Trek Shorts. There's so many things happening at the moment for you, Sam. Plus, also Trek Yards as well, pumping out daily content to your legions of supporters as well. We are fast running out of time on Trekzone. What's the sort of timeline for you now? One Small Step, how far away is it?
That's the one I hope to release first, hence the reveal here, which I think is going to be really cool, because all the space effects are done, the sets are almost done. But we're waiting for, and we didn't mention it yet, but Pixie is joining us from the Avalon universe. She's their new lead actress, co-lead. She's one of the new people, and she's actually coming aboard. Oh, I just said that. Yeah, coming aboard. That makes sense. As a captain, which is great. Nice little promotion there from her current rank. Nothing to do with her other characters. It's very much a fresh acting opportunity. And as soon as I wrote the character, I'm like, I want to give this a real character vibe. Pixie, I've told you a couple of times, would you do it? Yes! I was like, okay, great, you're hired. And she got the costume that day. Pips are on their way, I believe. There's a bit of makeup involved, because I was a bit ambitious with it. And obviously I can't finish until she's filmed it. But once you know it's about an hour or 2 hours of makeup, you're like, well, I might as well just write you to this film too. So she'll have a decent chunk of filming that day to do. I really want this year. I really would like one out at the end of this year, probably in between Christmas and New Year. So it's sort of celebratory. It's kind of vibing, because December 7th, what's that? Random day of the week. But in between feels like a nice thing to celebrate. It would be nice to release something on Temporomy's anniversary. That would be nice. But they're all in various stages of production. I filmed a lot of different things, but none of them are enough to be finished, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And that's the problem with ambition, you find. The more you try and do, the more cogs can go wrong. And some of the simple ones are quite nice. I think I know my second one, but it needs to come after this first one, which is frustrating. But we're hoping. And then just sort of, I guess, work on them all throughout next year. Depends how many more I'm going to film. But as you said, I've got other fan films to work on. They've all got hopeful deadlines. Gary's got 2 more that I've signed up for, or he signed me up for. I guess I've got a choice. First Frontier Director's Edition, that's going to be, or Special Edition, that's a big, that's got bigger the more Kenny's talked to me about it, which is kind of scary because it was big the first time, and Avalon as well. So it's kind of I wish I had, double the amount of hours in a day. It'd be great, but I don't. So we'll see.
And with Pixie, is she in the UK with you, or is she in the US?
No, she's one of the remote people who is going to be a film like Jacob, like Tyler, and hope they get good footage. That's kind of the hope. But just like with A Long Way From Home, Nick's footage is what it is. I didn't film it. It looks great, doesn't sound so great. But Joshua's filming both of the Avalon things, so he's really good at what he does. So I'm hopeful. And obviously I'll have the sets, at least previs, so I'll be able to put a CG person in the CG set and say, this angle, please, and this framing, and so I can kind of help them to get at least something what I want, and just kind of hope they direct them how I'm thinking. Because obviously time zones, I don't expect to be able to be on phone Skype at 4 a.m. directing, like, Joshua, could you do it again? It's not practical, is it? So they can do their thing. I'll just give them some notes.
Exactly right. Well, that is fantastic, Sam. I really appreciate your time today. Looking forward to everything that is coming up. Not just what you are producing, but also the visual effects that you're contributing to other fan films as well. You are the go-to man, and it is always incredible to have a chat with you. And I get exhausted just listening to your laundry list. I think you either need a PA or a production team to help you along to get you more hours in the day. But until then, keep plugging away and keep checking in with Trekzone as more things happen, mate. I really appreciate your time.
And thanks for doing what you do as well. Keep on to fan filmmakers, because we love talking about this stuff.